Good morning. Happy Sunday, everybody. It's me, Teri Hunter. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This getting in sometimes is a little rough. Can you see me? Can you hear me, everybody? I want to make sure you can hear me. Good morning, Juan. Can you hear me okay? Yes. Awesome. Good morning, Ariana, Katerina. Good morning, Small Wildflowers. I hope you had a better week. Good morning, Cece Pups, Jenny. Good morning, Michelle. Okay, good. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about Mercury, but we're going to talk about it in a new way today. And I don't know if it's that new, but I just want to kind of put a new slant on it because we're coming out of this Mercury retrograde and Mercury is really stationed. And it's stationed in a way that it's lasting literally. It went direct on the 3rd, and it's going to stay in this sort of slow motion as it moves forward until the 7th, and making quite a few aspects to other planets. So I started thinking about Mercury, and if Mercury was a character, who would it be? My hair is bugging me right now. I don't know if you guys saw my Saturn video on the Saturn retrograde, but I really related Saturn to the energy of Coach Boone from the movie Remember the Titans. And it seemed to fit so beautifully. And as I was contemplating, well, who would Mercury be? Thank you, Jenny. I started thinking about, that's not so easy to do. I mean, Saturn is kind of an unchanging energy. So it's kind of easier to categorize it as one character, whereas Mercury rules 2 signs, Gemini and Virgo, which Mercury shows up very different in those 2 signs. Gemini, it's going to process through conversation, through persuasion, where Virgo is going to be more analytical and practical and have looked at the facts and presenting the facts. So I started to think about really, when we look at Mercury in our own personal charts and how does it affect us, maybe we get to think about how Mercury is interacting with the other planets, because Mercury is about information. So how do you get information? You got to talk to people. You got to buzz around. You got to figure things out. And you got to sort of be very adaptable. That's the way I want to look at it. So here we have, I was also thinking, I saw the movie Field of Dreams recently. I purchased it on demand. And it was really weird while I was getting ready this morning, because Mercury's making a trine to Pluto in Capricorn. Mercury is squaring Saturn in Aquarius, and it is making a sextile to Neptune in Pisces. It's also making an aspect to the North Node. So I'm thinking to myself, the movie Field of Dreams has dead people in it. Some guy who talks to dead people, old dead people. So here I'm going Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune. I know it sounds a little crazy, but just follow me for a second here. I want to offer the idea that as we start to think about Mercury and Mercury's retrograde now, I want to start to think about, how am I processing information? How am I talking about the information that I'm processing? Where am I getting that information? And inadvertently, as a result of that, how am I teaching other people who and what I am? One of the things about the idea of that movie Field of Dreams is it wasn't just Ray who could see the ball players, which is very Mercury, teams. Okay, we have to think about teams. Mercury, there's so many things I want to say about Mercury. My brain is suddenly flooded with it, because Mercury is the closest sign to the sun, right? So it zips around. Mercury is mostly considered like a metallic energy. So there's a reflective dynamic, and thinking of, how do I reflect myself out into the world? There's a curiosity, but there's an impatience to learn long term. There's so many funny things about Mercury. So As Mercury stations this week and it makes a trine to Pluto, I really think that, and Pluto's in Taurus, I'm sorry, Pluto's in Capricorn, Mercury is still in Taurus. And as it's moving back towards Gemini, I think it's really about rethinking the structures of, oh my gosh, Jenny B, that's so cool that you say that. Mercury mirrors were originally made by Mercury. Great. So I think I'm in alignment with something, because I don't think this is about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but I think this is a real opportunity to start to connect to the idea that Mercury, while it rules so many things within the zodiac, the bottom line is it rules our thought, which then rules what we speak and what we teach others about ourselves. So as I start to really look at Pluto and Capricorn and going, how do I want to rewrite the structure of my life? How do I want to think about, as I've aged, I realize that one of the things that I tend to do in my thinking process is to give a lot of emphasis to those that have resistance to me. And in doing so, am I Plutoning my own life? Am I demoing my own life? So how can I transform that? How can I rewrite that idea? Then there's Saturn squaring Mercury. And this is where I think it's the Coach Boone idea, because Coach Boone really, he rewarded these kids in ways they could not have fathomed. If you saw the movie Remember the Titans, or if you saw my video, I talk a lot about this idea, because Coach Boone appeared so hard ass, really. He didn't care about your feelings. And so here, Saturn in Aquarius isn't caring about your feelings. It's caring about how you think. And are you thinking in a way that's based on an old story, an old history that doesn't serve you? And then Pluto's going to say, when are you going to be the co-creator of your life, and realize that your focus on the old story square to Saturn is still screwing you over, because that's the primary energy. Now, breathe, breathe, breathe. We have the sextile to Neptune. And this is where I think there's a beautiful opportunity here to see the spirituality and to give life to a new idea and a new imagination about things. I've been talking more and more about spirit, not about spirit, but to spirit, about the planets, about these astrological dynamics, and the idea that everybody kind of keeps putting them in the same lane. And while I agree that there's always going to be this foundational aspect, giving life, that everything evolves. Everything has a certain ebb and a flow. Everything has a cause and effect. So when I look at the idea of Mercury this week making a strong aspect to the North Node, what do I want? What am I stretching for that I want to live in the tangible world? And are my thoughts really aligned to the idea that it's possible that these things are, I'm open to them? Because if indeed there's a wobble in your energy, that's okay. That's where you engage the planets themselves. And you say to them, how can I adopt a more Neptunian spiritual way of viewing this situation, this experience I'm having? Because during this particular Mercury retrograde, and they come around so often, that I wanted to dig deeper. That's why I think these aspects that, because Mercury is also making an opposition to the South Node in Scorpio, which is making a trine to Mercury and Pluto, Mercury's making a trine to Pluto. So this is really about, are you willing to dig deep? Are you willing to be a surgeon in your own life to see the layers of your own information, how you process your experiences? And if for some reason, when you think you're being positive about something, I think we need to look twice. I think it's kind of like, how can I describe it? When I started getting, the malefics, Pluto, Saturn, these two planets have become very, very prevalent in my life. And as I studied astrology, I found out that Pluto made transits, and I think I've told you about this before, conjunctions to all of my personal planets throughout my life. And it's just compelled me to go deeper. Why would I put myself through this? Because I don't believe there's a God that assigns us this experience. So I really think that as we start to give life to the idea of divine disruption, am I contributing to disruption in my life because I'm trying to get other people to be different? Or am I willing to think differently? And maybe if I do that, other people will be different. We're talking about Mercury being a very social energy, very fun, very kind of lighthearted on some level, especially in Gemini. Now in Virgo, it gets much more serious. So how does this one energy be so different within two different signs? I think this is all about some sort of integration of the two things. So I'm very, very, I want to take this week and really use the idea of the trine to Pluto saying, how can I be like the phoenix and rise beyond my own thoughts about myself or my own way of speaking about myself? Because there's something about a big old pity party going on. And that's Saturn retrograde. Okay. We should not feel sorry. And anybody who's got Aries energy, Chiron going through Aries right now, it's going to make all sorts of aspects to Libra and Cancer, blah, blah, blah. So I just want to offer it this way, because I don't think things are necessarily going to get easier from the outside. It's more about how the inside is viewing the outside. And this is why I felt like I wanted to talk about Mercury so extensively today, because when I started to try to characterize it, like who would it be if Mercury was in a movie, who would Mercury be? Mercury could be a million different characters. Mercury could be representing the ball club in Field of Dreams. Mercury can be representing Kevin Costner and his ability to communicate with the other side. Mercury could be his willingness to get up and take action on that thought. So I feel like taking this time while this week specifically, because all these aspects are happening during this week. By the time we get to next week, Mercury will have moved on, be in Gemini, and, on its merry way here. So as we prepare for the idea of 2022, the year 2022, be about coming into cooperation with a bigger version of myself. And rather than trying to think about how can I make that happen, I feel like it's more about how can I align within my thought and my speech, and then start to see how the universe aligns things. I was listening to an Abraham talk in the hot seat recently, and Abraham was talking about signs and omens and how sometimes the human wants to make the sign so incredibly ridiculously big in their own mind to be sure, and it's usually the subtlety and the way you define something. So I said to Spirit, if I'm on the right track with what I'm doing, I want to see a blue balloon. And I remember saying in my head, I don't want to see it at the market because there's balloons at the market and I expect them to be there. And then sure enough, I was buying my flowers from Janelle and Nancy. Aren't they beautiful, Joshua? And Nancy was walking out with a bouquet of balloons, and it was like circus colored, and the blue one was right in front of me, just the way I'd pictured it in my mind. And I thought to myself, the human in me wants to make that harder than it has to be. Like, oh, that's not the right balloon. This is a whole new way. Okay, I say all this because as you, Neptune and Pisces making a sextile to Mercury, engage spirit in a conversation, and then you make things kind of easy on yourself. Instead of trying to make things so hard, I need a burning bush, I need a skywriter. Make it simple, something you can grab and wrap your mind around, and then pay attention so that you can implement the idea that Pluto's going to rewrite all of us right now, no matter what it is, especially those of us living in the United States, because Pluto is making an aspect, an opposition to the United States natal Mercury. So all of this seems very aligned to me. And as we are more aware of our thoughts, even if we can't shift them like this, just the awareness of the challenge allows us an opportunity to open a space for spirit to give us an experience to redefine ourselves. So that's the way I'm going. Okay. How's everybody doing? Oh, you're not on your phone today, Small. Terrific. How are you feeling? Are you feeling better? I hope so. Okay. And I wore my teacher shirt for you today because I was feeling like Gemini teacher. You know, we're going to do Gemini today. We're going to start with Gemini. My new thing is going to be starting with the sign of the new moon each month. So this month we'll be starting with Gemini. When we get to the new moon in Cancer, we'll start with Cancer. And then we'll just kind of work our way around. This is my Teri trying to find balance in a world that doesn't purport balance. This world is more like a seesaw. And the only way you're really going to enjoy it is if you don't. Okay, hope that wasn't too loud and annoying. All right, so let's start with Gemini and see what the tarot card is that we pulled this week. Oh, good, Small. It's very good that you don't want to stab anybody. Maybe we need to go to Toys R Us and get you a retractable knife. So that way, if indeed you do change your mind, you will be mitigating any consequences you might have to pay. Happy birthday, CC Pops. Okay. Hi, Stephen. It's so great to see you in the room. I hope you had a good time in your mentorship at camp. Okay. All right. So let's start. Get ready to go. We are going to start with Gemini. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. And you know, I'm always going to look at the moon first, guys. Your emotional body is how you manifest. I will go to the mat. I will go into the arena. I will be a gladiator for this dynamic, and I will talk to anybody. I don't care how great their astrology history or experiences are. We manifest on our emotional body. And the moon, while it zips around like hormones, it still affects everything that we do. So look first there, Gemini moon. Then your rising sign, which is your perception. The sun is how you're going to project yourself out into the world. And then stelliums. That's 3 or more planets within a sign or a house. I think if they're outer planets, it's not quite as influential because those are generational. But if they are personal planets, let's say you do have Mercury in its natural domicile, Gemini, and Venus, and, you know, maybe even, let's say, Saturn, that's going to be a stellium. Pay attention to that sign as well. So I say this because your moon, your rising sign, and your sun may not be in any of the signs that they're where a stellium is. Okay. So we're going to start with a tarot card for each sign. And for Geminis, oh, this is so fun. Look, it is the 9 of Cups. Now I want to offer this because this is a card of self-satisfaction. And I want to say it this way because there's something about being proud of yourself. Maybe you're proud because you didn't stab anybody today. Ha, ha, ha. But I want to offer this. If indeed you have not taken time to sit in something that makes you feel proud of yourself, let me offer this because it doesn't have to be anything, again, like a burning bush. It doesn't have to be anything like, you know, oh my gosh, you know, I climbed Mount Everest. This self-satisfaction may be an attitude or a thought. You are ruled by Mercury. And as Mercury stations, I really think that this is about thinking before you speak. But I don't know if I think it's about speaking to someone else. I wonder if it's about speaking to myself. What am I telling myself? And maybe part of it is focusing on your self-satisfaction, on the things that you have accomplished on an emotional level. Maybe it's even aligning to that feeling that if you think it, if you focus on it, you can create it. John Travolta. Well, let's just see. You know, I can see why you say that. Jenny, because of the face, the squareness of his face. But yeah. But you did make me, you just triggered a thought because it's staying alive, staying alive, staying alive. Okay. Well, I want to say this, Stephen, it's hard when you're emotionally challenged to be it, So I feel like this is more like if you feel a wobble, if that Saturn square to your mind in Mercury or emotional body, because if you have anything going through Aquarius right now, you're going to have Saturn, messing with you a little bit. Saturn's about to go back over my Chiron. And you know what? As it's done that, I've started to think that a lot of my interpretation of myself is not how I feel about my own accomplishments, but how the people who criticize me the most respond to me. And this is where I'm tripping myself up, because if those people want to see me critically, they will never shift. That's their perception. That's what they've chosen. So I think this is where Mercury stationing and making a trine to Pluto, a square to Saturn, and a sextile to Neptune has an opportunity to see, how am I processing my own transformation? Am I being stuck in my history? And where's the spiritual dynamic of this? Spiritual being, the challenge is where the pearls lie. The challenge in the triumph of it, the acknowledgement of it, the seeing of it, and the not judging myself for it, and then being able to slowly work my way past it could give me a great feeling of satisfaction. Okay, so let's see what area this is going to be in, because this, all the planets are in different places for Gemini, but this is about Gemini rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Happy birthday, C-Pups. I hope I said it already. Okay. Gemini, Azure is your first angel. Your desired outcome will happen in the near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. Then we have Astera asking you to reach for the stars as Caressa is closing a chapter, and Bridget is asking you to look deeper, because as you close the chapter, I think that looking deeper may be this mercurial dynamic of really taking a moment to make sure you're not creating the new platform on an old thought process. Saturn squaring Mercury this week. And I want to offer it this way, because I can feel myself. There's been this weird thing going on in my channel, right? So for 3 years, I limp along. I get 1 subscriber, 2 subscribers. I'm on Lada's channel. So I kind of think, well, there you go. I'm on Lada's channel, so I'm not worried about my channel. I get off Lada's channel, and then randomly I do certain videos, and I really don't have any expectation of what's going to happen with them. And then they hit somehow. And then I go in and I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a really good one. And I put an expectation on it, and it doesn't do as well. My thought process. Because if I look deeper into those thought processes, the videos that are doing well, I have no expectation, no resistance. I'm just putting it out there. Then I go and I put myself in a place where I put an expectation and I put a resistance. So this is really for Gemini about putting yourself in every situation that gives you a sense of personal satisfaction right now, and to look deeper into how you're processing that satisfaction. Azure is saying that you're going to overcome fear in some way. Astera is saying, because you've been edging God out and been in your ego, which is totally normal. Your Caressa is ending a chapter as a new chapter begins. And Bridget is being joined by the wind fairy. Okay. Wow. So I want to offer this too, because as I was like watching the various videos kind of do this roller coaster ride, there were certain moments that were very brief where I could feel my self-satisfaction. I could feel a sense of trust and joy in this process, because as I've gone into the dynamic of making more videos, it's more sweat equity, where I'm used to like dealing with clients and making money on a regular basis. And when I'm making videos, there's no people here. So it's been this kind of weird mind melt. So this is where I'm going with this, because Azure is saying that your desired outcome will happen in the very near future. And now I think you get to identify where fear has been keeping you in a holding pattern of thought. Like, I want things to change. I don't want them to change. I really feel like Gemini's kind of looking, Gemini's the twin. So I'm looking into the other party and I'm like, if you would just be this way, I would feel happier. And Spirit's going, you know what? I don't know if you should do that anymore. I think you should look at what just makes you happy and not worry about the other person. Because Astera is in the opportunity or the obstacle, saying to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires. And the goblin is, where have you been edging God out? Because you've been trying to think your way through this. You've been trying to figure it out. And maybe you've been trying to figure out something that is not really real, something that has appeared real, as if, let's say, you've been working in a situation or being in a team or having a certain line of thought, and you really thought, if I keep here, I'm going to prosper. Because, I'll be really honest with you. I didn't prosper one bit on that 3 years on Lotta's channel, but I kept telling myself I would, because she had all those numbers. It was BS. At least it was for me. I'm not negating her channel. I'm just talking about my own vibration, because Gemini, this is time for a new beginning. It's time for you to sort of see where your thought process gets to empower yourself to move towards what makes you feel satisfied. And I think this is really about validation of self, because if you look deeper, there's something about your mind that's been going back and forth. It's almost as if this idea of the fear being, how can I phrase this? Because I don't want you to try to avoid the fear. I want you to sort of look at the fear and say, you know what? That fear has all the recipes to make me feel like the bomb. That fear is actually where I'm going to get my tail wagged. So here I go. And I use this as an example because Lotta's such a big fish. She's not has just 10,000 or 30,000 followers. She had like almost 300,000 followers, over a quarter million followers. I really thought, thank you, Katerina. No, but I want to offer it this way, because I really was giving my power away. This had nothing to do with Lotta. Lotta was just the platform to illuminate this for myself. So Gemini, because this is so important to illuminate, where have you not been allowing your own happiness to come in? Because you've been afraid, if for some reason I put my needs first, I may lose something that feels secure in this moment. And that's been edging God out from you really being able to see the beauty of what can go on. So now, as you allow for, okay, Spirit, start giving me the signs and the omens that while I will start something that may feel rather unstable, it's viable. And please help align my thoughts to look deeper and deeper into what really truly makes me happy. I think I told you guys, I don't know which video I said it in. It might have been last week, but I watched a documentary on Julia Childs on CNN. And Julia was like 6'2", I don't know, maybe she was even 6'5". She's just really tall. She didn't start on television until she was over 50, at a time when women were not revered or even considered equals. She broke barriers that most people would have let them stop them. But the thing is she never thought of the barrier. She was so busy focused on her own joy. And I bring her up because she was a Gemini rising. I went and looked up her chart because she was really a teacher, and a teacher of food. I love Julia Child. Love her. Every time I watch anything about Julia Child, I feel like I want to get in the kitchen and start trying to make beef bourguignon. Okay, let's go on to our Cancers. And you guys, you know what? I'm really loving the idea that I watch so much movies and television and reality, because, I think that this idea of the planets being represented by characters in pop culture that we understand is going to help us integrate them more and allow them to evolve. Okay. Because when I looked at Julia's chart, so if you think of Julia as being a Gemini rising, that makes her seventh house Sagittarius. She met her husband, Paul, when she was in the service, the army or something, I don't know what it was, branch of the military, and they were overseas. And then as she got to know him, they fell in love, obviously. And then they lived in France. They didn't live in the United States. So really interesting to see this all kind of play out. Okay, Cancer, it's your turn. What is your tarot card now? Okay, this is the Six of Pentacles. Basically, this is a have or a have not card, right? And in some respects, I think this is really an opportunity for Cancer to start to focus in on the balanced scales here. Okay, this to me is really more about. I want to offer the idea that we are walking through this Mercury energy right now, that we are going into the idea that Mercury is making aspects to Pluto, Saturn, and Neptune, as well as the nodes. So, Cancer, have you been focusing in on being a have-not? Have you been looking to somebody else to create your bounty or to validate who you are in the material world? Because if you look at the scales of justice, are straight up on the person who is not being paid attention to. And I feel in some ways that this is an opportunity for Cancer to say, I represent nurturing. And what I forget as a Cancer is that I represent self-nurturing. And as a result of how good I am at that, really helps me be a stronger nurturer to others. So let's go. Let's see what the angel cards are. I have my Jupiter in Sagittarius, and I swear, as Small kind of makes fun of me with my Sunday sermons, I'm really starting to resonate with the idea that I might have been doing this in a past life, and I might have been a preacher. I can imagine myself. I absolutely can. And when I was a little girl, I went to church camp. I was always involved in church, and they had, minister for a day. And it's one of the few times that my dad, again, showed really strong pride for me because I was minister for the day. And I remember my stepmother cried and wiped her eye and lost her contact. And we were all on the floor, butts up, trying to find her stupid contact lens. Okay, here we go. Cancer, how is this relating to Mercury this week and how you're thinking and allowing yourself to transform? Because the scales of justice mean it's time. It's your turn. That's what I think. So our first angel is Caressa. The second is Yvonne. The third is Seraphina. And the final is Crystal. The greatest thing about when you can't see something, when it's time not to have faith in the outside world, but to have an intention. That's what I think is going to happen over here. So let's look and see. Caressa is being joined by Merlin. Merlin representing justice and balance. Yes, indeed. Yvonne is being joined by the Love card. Seraphina is being joined by the Deer. Wow. And Crystal is being joined by the Wind Fairy. See, I just love how this all works out, because I always feel like it's like my brain has some sort of weird loop going on. And when I get ready on Sunday mornings, I'm like, why am I so focused on Mercury today? Mercury has been kind of a B player with me lately, sort of like, okay, Mercury is just normal. But today, this week, I realized again, I'm kind of throwing away something that is foundational, because it moves quickly, because it experiences so many different things. And all those experiences build my thought process, build how I speak, teach me and teach others. So this is where I'm going, Cancer. It is time for you to implement balance in your own life. If you want to feel an exchange of energy, it's time to stop overly caring for others to your dismay, to give to yourself rather than to look at those that are receiving and you are not. Because Yvonne is about vulnerability in love. And I want to say it this way, there is no way to get anything you love, anything you want to manifest. You want to manifest a brick. There is an investment and a vulnerability to it. So when you're looking at, because I get this feeling, and I have for quite a while, with Pluto opposing Cancer, that Cancer loves giving, but doesn't love not being appreciated or doesn't love not being validated. And it's not like you want people to like bow down to you, but just an acknowledgement without this feeling of expectation attached to it. So now I feel like maybe as you start to give to yourself, treat yourself, nurture yourself a little bit and go, you know what? I can take care of that later. If I take care of me first, then I'll be better suited and have a better attitude about taking care of that other thing. Because now is an opportunity for you truly to be gentle and diplomatic with yourself as the people around you, not just your intimate family, but all the people around you will feel less pressure to give you love as you give yourself love. And then it will be easier for them and for you to feel their love. Because Crystal has saying, have faith and hope. There's more on the horizon. And this wind fairy now feels like Cancer's like, wow. So Pluto's making a trine to Mercury right now. So how am I willing to really transform how I'm thinking? Mercury's in Taurus. So there's a way that I can transform this to make me have a stronger sense of self. And this is really the most important thing I want to say. Nobody can give us our sense of self. I know we'd like them to. If you love me, I'll feel this. And if you do this for me, I'll feel that. But it's a mirage. It's a mirage with a time limit on it. So here, when you give to yourself, then you naturally start to create an exchange of energy. I love watching Chip and Joanna Gaines. I think they're a fabulously flawed couple. And I say that because nobody's perfect. And as I watch some of the old reruns of Fixer Upper, I realize I'm processing them different as I did the first time. I see this cheekiness in Joanna, I see this way of her being able to be herself, but not really coming off as critical. So I feel like, and she's good at taking care of herself. And I went and looked up their charts. He's a Scorpio sun. She's an Aries sun. So she's Mars. Mars is her sun sign, and it's his co-ruler. So there's a cooperation about this feeling of being able to commingle and be independent. So I want to give life to the idea for Cancer that the real justice and balance comes in is when you give to yourself. When you say, I'm tired, I can't do that right now. Or I need to take care of me. I need to go take a bath and shut out the world. Or shut out whoever. And doing so, I think you're going to start to see a shift in how other people are responding to you. And I think you're going to start to recognize this. I'm going to even take the wind fairy and start to see it in my everyday life. I'm going to start to see people responding to me differently. Okay, let's go on to our Leos. What happened? Oh no, what happened to your house? Oh my goodness, Stephen, that's so scary. A young woman drove through your parents' front door yesterday. Oh my goodness. Were they at the house? I can't even imagine. I live on a busy highway, and I always think that the possibility of somebody skidding up into my, but there's weird, I don't think it would actually hit my apartment. They were home. Oh my goodness. They're lucky they didn't have a heart attack. Well, that's Mercury, isn't it? Movement. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's go on to our Leos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. What is your tarot card for this week? The Cup of Love and the Cup, Angel of Peace. I want to say that because that's the Dove of Peace. So this is what I want to offer, because Leo has a little bit of sometimes I think a challenge with their heart chakra, with feeling loved, feeling, when you come from the sign of leadership, you don't see a lot of peers. So there can be this sort of feeling of being alone and feeling, there's something, when I look at this Ace of Cups, the first thing I thought of is that Leo's having trouble feeling loved. Let's look at the angel deck so I can get more clarity on that. Because, if it is about romance, that would be great. But I don't know if I think so. I think there's a little something that when Leo starts to, there's a big bubble in my brain right now saying that other people can only love me as well as I can love myself. And when I look outside of myself and I say, you don't appreciate me, or you don't validate me, or you don't this, I don't get love from that. I just get more of that. And that's, again, a focus. That's speech. That's how am I talking? Am I realizing that my words are creating my experience? Leo gets a lot of crap for being, the energy suck in the room, oh, look at me. But I really think that sometimes comes from a place of I don't feel looked at all. And so now this is about balance with that. So the angels are talking about Seraphina and a happy change to your home. Aurora saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend. Shanti is offering you peace and a smoother road ahead as you're willing to observe your own behaviors. Seraphina is being joined by the love card. Aurora is being joined by the birth and the rebirth card. Shanti is being joined by the wasp. And the patience card is being joined by the owl. Okay. So I'm just going to be, Leo, this is what I want to say for you, because this may feel a little challenging, but at the same time, it can offer you a great sense of relief. Because Seraphina and the love card feels very much like this is about demonstrating self-love. And oftentimes we don't know how to do that. So we shop, or we go drinking, or we go clubbing, or we do something fun. But I think this is a bigger opportunity for love. And I want to offer it this way, because the cup of love is about starting to think about the idea that oh boy, I feel like I'm going to say something that sounds kind of mean, and I'm trying to figure out how not to say it mean, but I just think it's kind of true, is that when we look at outside of ourselves and we say, if you would do this, I'll be happier, it doesn't work. So I recently, in this Mercury retrograde, had an old friend show up out of nowhere, reach out to me, lives across the country, and just blow all this smoke about how great I am up my butt and make promises that they never keep. And I've known this person for decades, and they still got under my skin because they didn't follow through with what they said they were going to do, all the time, being like blowing smoke via text up my butt. So this is where I'm going with this. Leo, this is really a time to claim yourself. And if you're going to really feel happy and feel seen, then I think it's time for a rebirth and a real focus on yourself this time. Leo gets a bad rap for focus, but I think that they actually are more challenged on focus, because this cup of love has to come from what you want for yourself and claiming that love for yourself and allowing this Mercury retrograde. Because if you think about it, Saturn is in Aquarius. That's going to oppose your sun, your moon, your stellium. It's going to oppose your rising sign in some way. So it's really going to ask you to reframe the square, how you perceive being loved. Because if it only comes from the applause, then you're sitting on a wobbly thing and you're never going to feel any peace. The angels are really saying that there's this feeling of vacillating and being angry and going back and forth with wanting peace but not feeling peace. And I kind of have to jump off the ledge of my own happiness in order to feel that peace. And this is what I want to say. It's not a defiant act. act. It's not a you don't make me happy, so I'm going to go make myself happy. It's more about, am I so focused on what you're doing that I'm actually giving myself a freaking get out of jail free card? So I'm not owning myself, because patience is about observation, and observation leads to this idea of seeing both sides of the story. And I kind of want to offer it this way, because the most successful relationships that I see are the ones where I observe where the partners don't villainize each other and don't hold each other accountable for your personal happiness. And this is why I love the Chip and Joanna. I mean, Chip does some pretty, must have Uranus, like some weird Uranus aspect, because he's kind of a shocking guy. And yesterday, Joanna is calling him in the middle of a work day, and he answers the phone, without a shirt on and his big old, bare chest. And she laughs. A lot of women would be pissed off, like, and just go at it with this anger, but she doesn't do that. So Leo, God bless you. Are you engaging people with the fun of who you are and in a loving way, or are you being a little hard-handed? Because I think if you start to operate and start to look at Mercury making an aspect to Neptune, are you giving person grace for their own human journey? That would be Neptune. Are you looking at the square of old thoughts, Saturn, history, and how am I bringing the history back in over and over again? Because if I'm bringing it back in, then I'm co-creating my own unhappiness and anger. Focused thought creates. The universe doesn't care whether that focused thought makes you happy or doesn't. That's your job. That's called free will. That wasn't that much fun. All right, here we go. On to our Virgos. Stephen, that 29 degrees of Taurus is a very master. I think that's a master degree of mastering a sign. I am super good in crisis, and then I have that meltdown afterwards. But luckily, there hasn't been any recently. Okay, here we go. On to our Virgos. Let's see what your tarot card is. Okay, here we go. 10 of Wands. Obviously, by the picture alone, this is not the most fun energy it could be. So my first question for Virgo, are you working hard? Are you making it harder on yourself? Is your head down in a way that maybe even other people are dictating how you're going about work? And even though it's the hard road instead of the easy road, you're acquiescing somehow to somebody else's energy. The wands are always about creative thought. It's always about the spark of creativity. And I want to say it this way, because I'm quite a rebellious little human. And I remember my last job at a chiropractic office. This one doctor was like, we have a script we want you to follow. And we want you to say this to the new patients. And we want you to say that to the new patients. And I was like, blow it, man. I ain't saying nothing I don't want to say, because I cannot follow a script to save my life, which is why I'm not an actress. And I think this is like somebody asking you to follow a script, Virgo, asking you to do it the hard way when you know perfectly well there's probably an easier way to do it. So I want to, let's get some definition as to what this is about, because I rebelled against that doctor. And the good news was that there was a higher up that actually, like there were 3 doctors in this chiropractic office, and the main guy kind of got me. He's like, just leave her alone, let her do what she does, and she'll make things happen. He didn't say that to my face, but that's how it played out. I've been super tired lately as well. I think that's Saturn making aspects too. Okay. Virgo, what does the 10 of Wands want you to raise your head about? Our first angel is Xana, the angel of protection. The second is Opal. The third is Aurora. And the final is Seraphina. Oh my God. Small. That is exactly what we're talking about here. This, and I want to offer this because sometimes people like that are divine disruptors, meaning how long do you just, that's a metaphor. Meet requirements. Oh my gosh. And that's so, it's such a trap. Xana is being joined by the perception card. Opal is being joined by the butterfly. Aurora's being joined by the Lady of the Lake. And Seraphina's being joined by the restriction card. I'm going to pull one more on the last one because I think I know what that means, but okay. This is what I want to say. Virgo, you're very practical. And when I was talking about Mercury earlier, you process things in an analytical way versus a conversational way. Gemini is going to be more, let me persuade you with my talk and my I kind of think that I see Mercury and Gemini a little more flirtatious than I do in Virgo. So I think that you are being protected from your own perceptions, that you're trapped by this energy. Okay, that there's only one way to do it, and the way to do it is I got to stick to this. And I want to offer it this way because if you have been in a position, because if I remember correctly, I think you work in a government position, so you may have a lot of benefits that you've accumulated. I just got this image of this woman that works at the market, not Joshua's mom, but this other lady, and she's kind of trapped by time right now because in 5 years she will have amassed blah 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 for her retirement. So this is what I'm saying. It's not about ignoring what you've amassed. It's about starting to adopt a dynamic of being protected, of coming into the idea that if I start to say that I'm a child of God and now it's time for me to give life to my rebirth. You know, I've been this caterpillar and it's been really becoming more and more restrictive. Because Small, I got to think you've been in this job for a while, and this manager, you know, to ask you to do something, isn't that so Saturnian, to ask you not to be brilliant, but just to be good enough? Oh my God. You know, like, really? I got to go. That's what I feel like as a Virgo. I got to go because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend. And now it's about having courage, because I want you to start to think about rewriting your story. You guys have heard so many of my tales. And when I started to be Teri and really work for myself, I didn't know I was going to do that. It all happened in anger and frustration. But the 2 years preceding that moment, I'd been driving home and walking Lucky to, let him pee. He was still a little baby then. And I used to say to him every day, pretty soon I'm going to get to just walk you whenever I want. I'm not going to be trapped by this. And I didn't realize I was sending these rockets of desire. My thoughts were focused on my liberation, and they were focused on that the universe would support that, because I think this for Virgo is about pinching you so that you start to think, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm done, because this is all about the courage to really, now what's this sword? The sword of thought. Sorry, I'm going backwards. We know the Lady of the Lake is holding it effortlessly during the storm. And now it's about starting to think, hey, you know what? If I start to give life to this, the universe is going to start to bring me blue balloons to show me that they are protecting me and my perception of the security that I need to feel viable moving forward. Because up until now, you've been afraid that there would be more restriction coming. And I understand that. But then I pulled the birth and the rebirth card. So I feel like this particular time is not about taking action. It's about strategizing. And it's not strategizing, Virgo, from a way you know. It's starting at the top. Here's my wish list, and going there. And then throwing this craziness out into the world. Okay, universe. Okay, Mercury sextiling Neptune. Within the next week, I want a blue balloon. If you're listening earlier, that was what I asked Spirit to give me as a sign that I was on the right track, that I'm purporting the right vibrational energy, even when I'm in a wobble. because that's why I think that's why I think your perception is being protected. You may have more momentum than you're used to believing you have. You know, that's interesting, Arthur Space, because your north node is on my is on one of in between. Well, I've got a 5-degree Pluto in Virgo and a 10-degree Venus. And I believe that that means that I'm meant to be of service in transforming our self-worth. It isn't it 2 grand trines. All right, let's go on to our Libras. All righty. I really think that the nodes and your Chiron tell a lot about the things that you're aligning on this planet. Okay, Libra, let's look at your tarot card. What do we have here? Oh, wonderful. Transformation, rebirth. This is the death card. You know, most people like completely seize up when they see this card. But, you know, it really is the death of something that no longer serves. When I look at this, I feel like, you know, we've kind of got this idea of the king and the priest. And I feel like the king who's laying on the ground might represent material structure that's out of balance, power out of balance. And then the priest, it feels a little bit like he's having an awakening and in some ways starting to really recognize that his divinity doesn't lie in the king. It lies in a bigger picture, that the whole world is in constant transformation. There is no death. There is only the shedding of a dynamic that at one point has become weary to the soul. And when we shed the physical body, it allows us to recalibrate and come back in with the idea that I'm not carrying all of that weight. So let's look and see, Libra, where the transformation is going to be happening for you. All right. Our first angel is Opal. The second is Fiona. The third is Grace and Antoinette. And the final is Archangel Michael. All right. Opal is being joined by the Truth. Fiona is being joined by the Eagle. Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the Love card. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the Communications card. Well, this is very interesting to me. So let's just think about Libra for a minute. Libra is a sign of partnership, cooperation, harmony, and passive aggressiveness. I'm a Libra sun, I can say it. Because sometimes they want to be so cooperative that what Libra will do is Libra will give you what Libra wants and then expect you to figure out that and come back and give it to them. So this is where I'm going with this. I think that Libra, this death would come from holding things back. Whoops, let's not do that. Let's hold it this way. I think, especially if there is a Libra moon, because you're going to be very attached to other people and their perception of you. But I want to offer it this way. Sometimes when we are able to tell our truth before we get to a place of anxiety, I look at Opal and I see God taking care of my child, the inner child. And so this child is not throwing a tantrum, but is feeling comforted. And I feel like it's important for you to be able to be comfortable with your truth. I mentioned earlier about this friend, quote unquote friend. I don't know if I think he's a friend as much as I think he's somebody from my past. And, I started to get a little annoyed with promises unkept. Like I don't even really care about this person making promises to me, but it seems like he was scratching an itch I have, that most people don't keep their promises. They throw out a lot of bullshit, pardon my language, and then I'm very practical. I usually don't do or say anything I'm not going to follow through on. So this is where I'm going with this, because I'm a Libra sun. The truth is, I don't really care about that guy anymore. So why am I getting mad? Now that I've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving, because I don't want old energies in my life anymore. And if I keep focusing in on that person being different, how am I going to invite in new energies? Because there's the angels of compassion and there's the love card. And what I really want is to be seen, to feel loved for all the things that I am. And that's another reason why I like Chip and Joanna Gaines, because they honestly seem to truly love each other for exactly who they are. All the thorns, all the stickers, all the beautiful petals and gorgeous loveliness. So where I'm going with this is, do I have the communication, or do I have the courage to start communicating from a much deeper truth? Because I personally have spent way too much time villainizing those that have not made me happy, those that have ignored me, those that have made promises they don't keep, or those that have criticized me. And on second look, I don't care enough about those people to actually give them as much time and attention as I am. So this is where I'm going. Libra, rising sun, moon, and stelliums allow this transformation so that the deeper truth of what you truly want to experience, which is balance and partnerships, which is exchange of energy. And spirit wants to bring this sense of integrity, of this ebb and flow into your life. And part of it is having compassion for the idea that people love differently. And if you want to be loved the way you need to be loved, then don't try to change somebody else to love you the way you need to be loved, but instead have the courage to truly communicate your deeper truth to God and the angels. I oftentimes refer to also Stedman and Oprah. I don't know them personally, but what I do know is that Stedman has spent decades being Oprah's person, and they've never married, and he does not feel, to me, diminished in who he is. He's not Mr. Oprah. He is Stedman. And I feel like if there is that type of energy exchange between the two of them, then why can't the rest of us find that type of energy exchange where we can be all we can be and still be loved and accepted and feel that ebb and flow? That's what I think Libra really wants. And I think it's time to claim it. And maybe there's a death that has to happen. And that death doesn't necessarily have to be a physical death, but a way of thinking. Because Mercury this week is all about thinking, speaking. What am I focused on? And am I giving life to the idea of what I want to experience? Or am I spending so much time in what I have experienced that I'm inadvertently part of the problem? I know I am in my own personal life. I know I am. I watch my brain and I get so annoyed with myself, and then the annoyance with myself doesn't help the issue. I am just really a kaleidoscope of varying colors. All right, let's go on to our Scorpios, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. What's your tarot card? Pluto. There's it is right there. That's Pluto, the judgment card. Rising like the phoenix from what appears to be death. There's a calling to an inspiration. That's Archangel Gabriel tooting the horn, inviting you to realize that life doesn't end with one thing. It goes on. And now it's time to allow for the illumination, because your power, that's the yellow we see in the hair color and the characters, comes from your thought. Again, this is such a mercurial week, and not in the way of running around with the monkey mind as much as this opportunity to really see how our thought process is aligned. It isn't about being like, this is what I want to kind of be clear about. The secret sort of intimates that you have to be perfect at alignment. I don't think so. I think it's just an awareness of where you want to be. And then kind of when you're in the wobble, engaging spirit, hello, Archangel Gabriel, help me align to the thoughts that serve me. Because it is not, sometimes when we're unconscious and we're focused on the problem, it has a lot more momentum than when we're conscious and we know there's a problem. Because when we're focused and we're unconscious, we tend to think we have to fix it. The human has to take action. So there becomes this kind of challenging energy. But as a conscious person who knows that we're co-creating with the universe, then we can use this energy of judgment to assess where this challenging experience has actually served me to be more powerful, because I'm not going to lie to myself anymore. Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. All right, here we go. Let's hone in what this is all about. And, if you guys want to hit that like button, I'm not going to be mad at you. That was me being cheeky. Okay, here we go. Scorpio. Our first angel is Archangel Raphael. The second is Yvonne. The third is Omega. And the final is Ariel. So we know that Pluto rules power and control. And, not all power and control is obvious to the naked eye, meaning sometimes it's kind of subtle in how it shows up. So let's see where Archangel Raphael is offering you an opportunity to have an epiphany about power and control in your life. The perception card is coming up right here. Archangel Raphael is offering Scorpio a healing, an epiphany, literally a rising like the phoenix of your own perception. And Yvonne is vulnerability to your truth. This is beautiful. A little scary. I'll tell you, a little scary, but not in a bad way. Because what it's going to do is give you victory over your thought process. Again, Pluto trining Mercury this week, giving you an opportunity to not villainize yourself, not judge yourself, but start to rewrite the story. Because Ariel talks about physical or spiritual experiences changing the way you view yourself in the world. And there's the movement card. So this is what I want to offer my Scorpios, because you rule. I have Mercury in Scorpio and I have Neptune in Scorpio, and I really believe it's part of why I talk to the dead, or why I talk to spirit, or why I don't go to a human all the time to get an answer, but I will meditate on Saturn. What do you want me to know about you, Saturn? Because I think you're getting a bad rap. And then I see Coach Boone, and then I watch a movie, and then I start to see the alignment. So I feel that Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums, this is a huge opportunity for you to really claim your power by allowing yourself this rising like the phoenix. An epiphany about your perception, whether it's working for you or against you, is irrelevant, because now it's about being vulnerable to the truth. If the truth of what you discover doesn't serve you, then your victory comes in your ability to shift your thoughts. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect at shifting. It's just the acknowledgement. I need to shift my thoughts. Then you say to Spirit, thank you so much for helping me. Because I'm a fixed sign, Scorpio. And I do know a lot. So sometimes it's hard for me not to trust other people, because I know a lot. I know a lot about what they tell me with their words, and I know what they tell me without their words. So I think this is super powerful for Scorpio. All right, let's go on to our Sagittariuses. And I've started a new thing lately. I'm going to start with the new moon, whatever sign it is. So that way, this month it's Gemini. Next month it'll be Cancer. It's my weird Libra needing to purport balance as much as possible in the world. So rather than going to the polarities of Aries and Pisces, after all these years of doing Pisces first, I thought I would just start with the new moon. Okay. Meaning the sign of the new moon, and do that for the month. Okay, on to our Sagittariuses. What's your tarot card? This is a really fabulous energy and a little bit challenging at the same time, because this is a real speaking to your heart. Sagittarius is the traveler, the philosopher. And while all the cups here appear to be balanced, this character is leaving on a spiritual journey, kind of a walkabout, kind of a going my own way because I need something more. And I feel as if whatever that more is will be revealed as we go through this Saturn retrograde. So let's look and see. Hey, Les, I love seeing you in the chat. Welcome, welcome. Okay, not that I don't love seeing all the rest of you, because I do. Somebody else came in the room and I didn't get a chance to say hi. I can't remember who it was. Okay, here we go. Let's see what this spiritual journey, what is this idea of, because when I look at this, I think it may be something to do with your thought process. Again, we have these ideas that Mercury's making very strong aspects. And I think they're stronger than normal because of the stationing idea. So it's like Mercury is like slowing down and really thinking, okay, are my thoughts serving me, Pluto and Capricorn? Will these thoughts bring what I want into the real world? Saturn, am I letting old ideas somehow creep underneath everything and really be the sort of where I'm not paying attention to my history because I'm so used to that history that I don't realize it's what I'm standing on when I'm creating mentally. And then Neptune is offering me a whole new spiritual way of looking at things, sort of being, what if I go into my imagination? What if that fantasy or what appears to be a fantasy is really more real than whatever Saturn's telling me right now? All right. And that's why I have to walk away from what appears to be balanced. Sagittarius, Archangel Uriel is our first angel. The second is Archangel Raphael. The third is Ray. And the final is Bethany. Sagittarius, the restriction card is joining Archangel Uriel. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the frog. Ray is being joined by the bee card. And Bethany's being joined by the protection card. Okay, so this is what I want to kind of say. When I look at this now, I got chills everywhere. I don't think this is a physical walking away from an experience. I think Sagittarius, this is more philosophical, more conceptual, more spiritually intentional, because we have the restriction card and we have Archangel Uriel, which is about frustration. I'm not really thinking this is about anger. It feels like I'm being slowed down, and maybe even to the point where I want to move forward, but I have to wait for other things to come into play. There's something I think the universe is working for you. I'm focusing in on the white of Archangel Uriel's wings. There's an illumination in some ways coming. There's an opportunity to fly, and the restriction that's coming up could very well be what offers the epiphany, because what you may have been building is something that is a platform for the next step up. Okay, because the frog is leaping from it's leaping from one lily pad to another. And again, I feel like I'm seeing an epiphany coming through Archangel Raphael. I'm feeling like the idea that Mercury is making all these aspects is giving me an opportunity to really think about and slow down about how am I thinking. The access of Gemini and Sagittarius is, Gemini is the everyday details of life. Sagittarius is this sort of conceptual, broad, real philosophical kind of way of thinking. And I feel as if in some respects, you may be feeling frustration because these big concepts aren't being able to be implemented, or you're not able to move in some way, or you have to wait for a baton pass. Somebody's got to come and give you an opportunity. And your job right now is to sort of stay really connected to your being energy and what you want. And I want to offer it this way, because If indeed something comes in and there's an offer that isn't completely, and I'll go to your professional life rather than your personal life. If there's a professional offer that's given to you and it looks good, but it's not completely aligned, this is an opportunity to really display a certain amount of trust. And rather than being frustrated with the idea of, damn, I'm doing a do-over again. The job seems good, but the money's bad. The money's good, but the job sucks. Something is off kilter, and it's not completely off kilter. It's like it's attempting where, can I live with this off kilter? And I feel like no, don't do that. Because when you don't do that, I feel like spirit will bring something much more aligned, but you have to be brave enough to stand while the universe aligns all the components to bring it into place. Because here's the card of self-care and the protection card. The protection card is a 38, which is again going to reference our thought process. So Sagittarius, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. If you're frustrated with things, feel like they're moving, but they're not moving fast enough, or they're moving, but they're not really aligned to what it is you want, I think stay the course a bit. I think it's important to hold and to say to spirit, I'm going to sit in this little place. I may feel a little frustrated right now, but something is going to pop. And I want to offer it this way, because I myself have felt this sort of weird stuttering where certain opportunities have been presented and then they didn't happen. Or I felt like somebody was, and this is my kind of sinister way of thinking sometimes, is like somebody leading me down the garden path and just, then dumping me. And I started to surrender. You know what? If the universe keeps blocking this situation and I think it's good for me, maybe it's not as good for me as I think it is. And it's my job to allow an illumination so that I can actually be more confident in my alignment to spirit and take care of me. Because maybe if I tuck under to that other situation, it's really not going to serve me. Oh my goodness, your sister does astrology small? Don't listen to her bad. There's always good and bad with every one of the dynamics. It's how we process it that matters. I know that because if I didn't know that, Pluto would have murdered me years ago. Not to mention all the other crap that's gone on. Congratulations, Stephen, on your new job. All right, let's go to our Capricorns. What is your tarot card? Love. This is the cup of love. This is really represents an energy, an infusion of love in some ways, an innocence in love. It's the, oh, good. I'm glad she tells you the good stuff, because this for our Capricorns is something that I think is really on the docket for you. And I want to offer it this way because it feels as if for the last few years, as Pluto has been transiting your sun sign, it could be your moon, whatever, but transiting Capricorn, it's been something that you've learned how to rewrite love. Hold on, I'm choking. And I want to offer it this way because there'll always be a practical sense to Capricorn, a bit of a paternal energy to it. And again, here we go, this idea of Coach Boone representing Saturn. But I think when we look deeper at Coach Boone's character in the movie, Remember the Titans, we see that he really did love these boys. And because of the difference in the color of their skin, Coach Boone knew that his Saturnian energy towards those of his own race was, in the long run, would serve them for the type and the time in history they were walking through. So it was really a beautiful dynamic. So I want to offer this, Capricorn, is to start to see the love within the structure, to start to feel the love within the idea of Mercury squaring your native planet and in Aquarius, and allowing a bit of a revolution about this. Maybe it's about looking for divine disruption. Maybe it's about understanding how you're communicating, and when you're, rather than just displaying the facts, you're giving a little bit of acknowledgement to the other person, your communication is more effective. But let's look and see where we're going with this. My progressed sun is right at the top of my chart in Sagittarius on the cusp of my MC. I have a whole cluster of planets up there. Okay, Capricorn. Our first angel is Archangel Uriel. The second is Indriel. The third is Isaiah. And the final is Bethany. Archangel Uriel is being joined by the Mystery card. Indriel is being joined by the High Priestess. Isaiah is being joined by the Fear card. And Bethany is being joined by the Baird. Well, this is interesting because your ruling planet is going backwards. It's asking for you to sit down and really think about how the rules are working for you. I did a whole video on the Saturn retrograde, so you can look at that video and see which house it's going to be in for you. But I want to offer it this way because this idea that this is the main energy, the cup of love and the cup of intuition, to be more water-like, to be more flowy, because you're going to have to make a choice in how you display your frustration. And I think you're starting to learn, Capricorn, that if you get too stoic in a behavior or you become too rule-bound and rigid, it's not serving a bigger picture of you. Because now is a time to really dig deep into the idea that the version of what you want for your life is much more warm and fuzzy than people might think it is. And I think Indriel is asking you to focus on this. You know, here I see Isaiah asking for you to have a sense of newness, to give life to a new idea, and then to look and see how fear will serve you. Never, ever, ever try to avoid your fears. It's like a magnet. So if you give yourself permission to say, what does fear want to do in the way of empowering me? What does it want to teach me about how strong I am, about my intention? Because Capricorn, in the final position is Bethany, and there's the card of history. And your ruling planet is squaring Mercury this week in a very strong way, creating friction, saying, you know, are you going to stick to the old story? Or are you going to liberate yourself to a new story? And the new story is not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but rather maybe looking and saying, what about how I show up? What if I only worry about me in this situation versus worrying about other people? Because even if you're walking through a challenging situation or a challenging exchange with others, how you show up for you could be the very ticket of how beautiful this feels. So the actual interruption, which is what pisses you off, feels better because you took care of you and you didn't go down the rabbit's hole with this person, or you didn't react, or you didn't lower yourself to an energy that didn't serve you. And I think this is really where we start to recalibrate the experiences in our lives, where we walk through similar situations that we have before, but we make conscious choices during them versus reactionary choices. All right, let's go on to our Aquariuses. Rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. What is our tarot card? The Page of Swords. Now, this is very interesting because Aquarius is a air sign and a fixed air sign. And when I look at the Page of Swords, he has a nice light foot. Do you see that one leg? It's sort of almost looks like a dancer. And I feel this is very, very strong about how am I going to wield my sword? And am I in some, because again, the pages are always the infusion of an energy, sort of an innocence in that energy. And I want to offer this because, you know, in thinking about Aquarius overall, thinks about humanity, it's individualistic, it's rebellious, it's unexpected. So I feel as if this week with Mercury, the planet of thought and communication, making an aspect, you know, Pluto's offering us transformation. We're seeing Saturn squaring us in Aquarius. We're on Aquarius right now. So when your co-ruler is squaring how you're thinking. I think this is an opportunity for you to really decide how you want to use not only your own thought process, because if you look at this guy's ponytail, there's motion here. Somewhere there is motion going on, but this feels like intentional motion, thoughtful motion. And I don't feel anger in this posture. This dancing here, or this sort of these ballerina legs, whatever those are, they don't feel angry. So I think this is super important. Let's look and see where it's going to be directed. Indriel is our first angel. The second is Omega. The third is Isabella. And the final is Patience. Then we have the Movement card. We have Omega. We have Isabella being joined by the Truth card. And then we have Patience and the Protection card. When I look at this, when I think about Aquarius, because this is your first house, this is how you see yourself. We have Saturn, which makes us feel sometimes restricted or sometimes fearful and depressed. But yet this is your co-ruler. So I think for my Aquariuses, this is about digging deeper into your thoughts and at the same time being light, being flexible and adaptable with how you're using your sword, because Indriel is an epiphany of some kind, and there's the Movement card. And I feel like this could potentially be where you have been thinking you've been moving in an innovative way. You think you're being all, no offense to anybody, but I feel like there could potentially be the idea that you think you're creating a new platform, but there's still remnants of old rules that may not actually serve you, because we have the frog here again, and the opportunity, the obstacle, and it represents cleaning of the house. Well, for the human, the house is the mind, and there's where victory comes. And Isabella is saying, yes, the time is right for truth. Now, let me offer it this way. If indeed Aquarius looks at both their rulers, one is shocking, okay? Uranus, shocking. And one is like stone. It sits like a big rock and it won't move. I feel there's something going on here where there's an opportunity for Aquarius not to really focus on the outside, but more on the inside. The movement comes from an epiphany. The epiphany comes from maybe I've been adopting a way of thinking that, wow, there's a lot of credence to it. And it's very, very true. At the same time, am I landing on others the way I want to? Because there's the Protection card. So this is where I'm going with this. Aquarius is scientific. It rules humanity. It rules collective, large groups of people, like people who watch YouTube. We don't have, or what I'm seeing here is that there's something about Aquarius having an epiphany that offers opportunity for movement while I'm still speaking my truth. But now there's an awareness of how my truth is going to land on others. So rather than being kind of unemotional about how they feel about the truth, I want to be influential. So I'm starting to pay attention to how my communication lands on others. So during my choppy period of being a little bit too forthright, too fixed, too blunt, I'm being protected because somehow people around me are seeing the bigger picture of what I'm trying to birth. And your opportunity, Aquarius, is to really look at these aspects that Mercury is making. Again, I'm being really repetitive, but for the people who are only going to the timestamps, I want them to have this information. The Pluto trine is really asking you to dig deep and knowing that there will be benefit. Pluto is at 28 degrees, which reduces down to a 1. New opportunities as a result of implementing new thoughts. Saturn is squaring Mercury. This is where have I held myself? Where have I inadvertently been holding myself in a pattern of thought? And if I'm right about something, that might be the pattern. I'm right and you're wrong. And until you acknowledge you're wrong, I'm not moving. Is that working for you? I don't know if it is. Because now if you go to the idea of the sextile between Neptune and Mercury, what if I give grace to someone else? Could that actually open them up? Could that actually create a bigger bridge in the situation? And now I understand how I communicate is so important to what I experience at the end of the day. That's where I'm going with that. All right. Let's go on to our Pisces. Then we will do Aries and Taurus, and then we'll be done for today. Welcome, Shelley. Welcome, Max Meditation Channel. Good to see you here. Yay. I get so excited to see everybody. Okay, let's see what's going on for our Pisces. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Teamwork and contracts. Something's going to start to happen for you. And this could be while this represents Mars in Capricorn, it also is mercurial in the sense of contracts are agreements and they are things that are ruled by Mercury. So let's see what's going on here. Because I always kind of get this feeling that this gentleman here that's standing on the bench has more prowess. It's almost as if the two characters here are saying, this is my vision and it's his job to implement it. And part of that, this cooperation is being flexible in how the ideas are presented or how they're interpreted. So let's see what Pisces has to say. Because sometimes Pisces is so mutable that it might be all about actually speaking your opinion and asserting yourself a little bit here. Let's see. Our first angel is Vanessa. The second is Indriel. The third is Merlina. And the final is Archangel Michael. All right, Pisces, Vanessa is being joined by the Disruption card. Indriel is being joined by the Wasp. Merlina is being joined by the Swan. And Archangel Michael is being joined by the Bee card. Okay, this might be a little bit challenging. And I'm not going to try to sugarcoat it because of the Mars and Capricorn dynamic that this card represents. There could be an argument within a contract. There could be a disagreement because here is Vanessa saying, are you going to base your decisions on faith or fear? And there's the Disruption card. And oftentimes when I see that Disruption card lately, it feels like a divine disruption. In some ways, if I don't let this disruption take place, I'm going to stay in an energy that doesn't actually serve me. Now, your ruling planet is making a sextile to Mercury right now. That's the faith over fear. And when you look at the situation here, I think it's about asking yourself if you've actually been happy and if this situation is played to what you want, or if you're in some ways hoping the situation would change. Because Indriel is the light worker, and then we have the Wasp. And I want to offer it this way because Pisces pissed off is not such a great thing. And if for some reason you're pissed off because you thought at some point they would have this epiphany and things would change and we would have more cooperation or more balance within this contract. I don't know if I think this has to do with, this feels like it has to do with work or something to do with money making. It doesn't feel like love or relationships that way. Because I think the whole disruption for you, Pisces, is so you'll start to pay attention to your intuitive body and stop paying attention to what your eyes see. More times than not lately, with Saturn making such strong aspects to my Chiron, I get real nostalgic, and there's a part of me that wants to work and make money. And then there's a part of me that just wants to lay in bed all day long. And it's not like I want to cry. I'm just exhausted from the wariness of the planet sometimes. And I say this because Pisces, honoring your spiritual body, honoring the idea that you rule the 12th house of, the last bits of the human experience before going back into the collective, the ideas of ashrams. I feel like it's about reclaiming yourself here, because Archangel Michael is asking you to have the courage to really find the victory in your own attitude and being energy. And what do I want for myself? What do I want for the future? And to start to align my thoughts and my ideas to what I really want to experience. And if for some reason you've been holding up, I keep seeing the guy on the bench. If Pisces has been standing on the bench and really kind of holding up the situation and feels like they're just, basically a slave to this contract, then it's time to change things. And it isn't about trying to change them because you're angry right now. It's about having the faith to say, maybe I needed this disruption because I wouldn't have moved if I didn't. And so I'm going to start to thank my anger because it gave me an epiphany. And I realized I was only confused when I wasn't paying attention to what I really wanted, which was to move from the ugly duckling into the swan. And now I'm going to encourage, or I'm going to engage Archangel Michael, not only to give me the courage, but also to protect me as I shift my being energy to align to myself. It's not selfish. People who make themselves happy make other people happy. All right, let's go on to our Aries, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Wonder how Aries likes being the second to the last. It's kind of fun to swap things up, I think. All right, here we go. Our tarot card for Aries is the Magician. This is beautiful. Infinity sign. Everything is secular. Everything, nothing really. And it's through the power. See this bright yellow that's illuminating his aura? As above, so below. This is a universal law. What I put into my thoughts goes into the material world. And now I think this is about Aries mastering this for benefit and for the healing of everyone. See this little serpent around the stomach area, which is right between my power chakra and my wants and desires. If there's one thing I absolutely believe and would, you can put it on my gravestone. Thoughts are things, and they absolutely create your experience, whether you want to admit it or not. And this is the whole age of Aquarius coming up. That's what it's going to be based on. Okay, here we go. What does the Magician want to tell Aries? Oceana is our first angel. Archangel Raphael showing up again in the opportunity or the obstacle. Seraphina offering happiness and more calmness. And Athena asserting ourselves. So this is what at being an Aries rising, and my family, if they can see something negative in me, they jump on it like frickin' what on rice, right? And I started to buy into that story that I'm just this big old pain in the ass. And the truth of the matter is that most of the rest of the world doesn't see me that way. And this was really something that was very powerful for me. And I feel as if this is coming up for Aries. Let's see. Oceana is being joined by the mystery card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by Merlin. Seraphina is being joined by the truth card. And Athena is being joined by the fire fairy. Okay, so when I look at Oceana and I put her in relation to as above, so below, your emotional body starts what you create on this planet. And Aries, you're the pioneer. You know on so many levels how to assert yourself out into the world. Now it's about that assertion from a place of intention. It's almost about starting to say, what? People are emotional beings. So what I'm going to do is start to choose to recognize that I have all the tools. And sometimes it's about coming from this cup of love. It's coming from engaging, inspiring people versus bullying them. And I'm an Aries rising, so I don't want to make everyone a bully. But when Aries gets intentional, and I know I do it. I try to do it very Libra-like, but I'm like, I get a little pushy. So balance. There's the epiphany that I think Aries is having this week. I think that all of the transformation, if you think about Pluto squaring Aries, and that it's been doing it for a while, it's squaring my rising sign. It's really teaching me how to hone my tools, how to use my tools in ways that are appropriate versus and serve me versus destructive. Because the truth is that I want to be happy and I want to feel balanced and I want to be Aries. I don't want to be anything else. I've thought about this, like, because I get that hostile, you're aggressive, you're blah, blah, blah. And I think about, well, if I could be something else, what would I want to be? And I never want to be anything but me. But I want to be the best version of me. And so this is where I think Aries, looking at this mercurial dynamic of the week, looking at the sextile with Neptune, giving yourself grace, looking at the square and saying, where have I been a little hard ass? Where have I been a little unrelenting? And then looking at the trine with Pluto and saying, you know what? I'm willing to be the harborer of more peace and harmony, which is what a trine does. Because Aries, it's safe for you to lovingly assert yourself in a whole new way, that actually inspires others. If you think about what the pioneer does, he breaks ground for everybody else. People follow him. If you think about, the hero, the fireman is Aries. The gladiator is Aries. So there's a lot of hero energy here. So now it's time for Aries to start to think like a hero. And not in a way that, I'm not trying to pump you up like, oh, yay, I want to have a parade for you. This is about being brave when you're feeling fear and how that fear may be about your emotional body and having to make a choice to follow your soul versus what everybody else tells you. All right. Let's go on to our final sign, Taurus, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. I used to know a Greek lady that read the tea leaves. And my grandmother in Scotland used to read the tea leaves. And it's funny because I used to think that my Scottish side wasn't a very spiritual. I just thought they were all about the Scotch and the golf. But as I study history and I study the Knights Templars and the Order of Christ, and so many of religious orders come out of that region of the world. Okay, Taurus, our final sign, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Let's see what we got. This is about observing your world. This is about waiting for your ship to come in some respects and seeing signs and omens that it is coming in. When I look at the the Three of Wands, I always think that this is one of the few cards where the water is yellow. So what happens? Your emotional body is in play here, and your willingness to stand on the shores of your own life and to see the viability of your ship coming in, or that you're in the midst of a process. Because we have to remember that we have got two very powerful things going on in Taurus. That North Node is going to continue to transit. It's going to make you ravenous for what you want to experience. And Uranus is ready to change it up, baby. It's like whatever you're doing that isn't serving your greatest good, which isn't serving those ships coming in, is going to have a Uranus effect. And I want to say it this way. I'm not going to bombs. I'm going to epiphanies. Uranus is the higher octave of Mercury. And these Mercury aspects right now are really rewriting how we think. Bye, Shelley. Have a good week. We'll see you next Sunday. I got to get my show on the road too. I have a client. Okay, here we go. Taurus, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Merlina. The second is Fiona. The third is Isabella. And the final is Oceana. Oops. That's so cool, CJD. I love that. All right, here we go. Taurus. Merlina is being joined by the cat. Fiona's being joined by the High Priestess. Isabella's being joined by the Burden card. And Oceana's being joined by the Deer. Okay. Don't be mad at me, Taurus, because I'm a Taurus moon, all right? So I'm part of this. But I got to tell you, I think you're having a big lesson in as above, so below. What thoughts you put out into the world are actually things, and you're creating your experience. Because even though the magician was for Aries, when I look at this, you're still waiting for your ship to come in, and you may be feeling slightly impatient about it. Because the cat and Merlina talks about confusion, but this feels like the magic of independent thought, about understanding a process, about, Taurus rules food, so it rules growing food. And there's a process to it. I've been growing tomatoes, and I finally have a tomato that's red and I think almost ready to be plucked. And I remember my Aries and my Taurus is like, I want it to grow now, faster, faster. And I feel as if maybe right now, this is really about aligning to the idea that these ships have a bit of traveling to do in order to fulfill your wish as succinctly and as richly as you like. Because now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving the very highest version of what you want. And right now it may be hard for you, Taurus, because you're like, wait, I need to see it. I need to see it in the real world. There's a burden in feeling like it's going to happen. But this is the time to go into your emotional body. As I've been, building the YouTube channel, there's been this real sort of fight between the money I know how to make and the money I'm projecting I will make someday. And I can't make the money that I'll project I'll make without the sweat equity to make it happen. This is a little bit about sweat equity. And in this particular case for Taurus, I think it's sweat equity in your emotional body. Kind of having to hold a line of emotional thought that says, as Uranus liberates some of the things it doesn't serve you. This is a little bit of a challenge of Taurus in general, is that need for security will somehow keep things in a holding pattern. And this is about understanding that security doesn't come from what you see, but what you feel. And your willingness to be gentle and diplomatic as the universe aligns to bringing things into your sphere in a more solid way. There's a very royal feel about his robes. There's a feeling that he is holding on to that staff, but he trusts the other two will hold themselves up without him having to manage it. So that's where I'm going with this. All right. So it's a big mercurial week. Mercury is stationed before it's going direct. You'll get some real momentum around the 7th. So as the week progresses and these dynamics start to come into play, think about it. And as you think about it, then say to Spirit, align me to the highest vibration of what I want to experience, so that can anchor me in to a way of being that supports the future I want to experience. Thoughts are things, and words represent our thoughts. And the emotional expression of those words sets a ripple out into the universe. This week, we get to practice that ripple. And I hope you all will put a spirit on task, ask them to give you a sign, something super easy, something you can relate to, but something that you haven't done before. So it can be new and exciting and validating. And again, my name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. I'm available for readings. My information is below, and I'll be back next week. I hope to see you all. Happy beginnings of, I don't even know where I am all of a sudden, June. Peace out, everybody. I will see you next Sunday.